Fabrication Nation. I got a big order here in the shop. I thought it'd be a good video to post on some production work. This is the mock that I set up and turned this in. And so what it is, what I was asked to do was, I was approached by an organization of horse owners. The organization is doing a fundraising event, and what they wanted was a stand that would hold their membership flag. And so whenever they're off location, if they're camping or if they're off site, they can post this into the ground and it would signify everybody that was part of that organization. The flag spans about 13 inches across and it's already pre-made. So all they needed was the metal post to hold it in the ground. They looked at some other options, and pretty much everything online just isn't very durable. It's very cheaply made, and most of all, it's not custom to their organization. If you look online, usually what you can find is just the metal rod piece. There are a few that have some design built into it, but nothing that really signifies their organization. So they came to me and asked me if I could build something that would hold their flag and would be durable enough to be pulled in and out of the ground several times. So this is what I came up with. This is 1/2 inch rod, and I have this foot post here. This is 1/2 inch flat stock, and then I topped it off with this horseshoe here, and it's just a standard size 1 horseshoe. So the measurements on this, you have about 14 inches for your flag to sit on here. This lip right here is about 2 inches, and the back end for the horseshoe is about 4 inches. The rod top to bottom is about 39 inches. Then this footrest is about 8 inches. Now this first one took me about 30-45 minutes to complete. That includes laying it out, designing it, cutting the metal, welding it complete, and then painting it. And this is what was presented to the board. The board had to hold the decision and determine if this was something that they wanted to purchase for the organization, and they actually did. So they came back to me and they said they'd like to order 100 of these. So that's a pretty big order. So what I have to keep in mind is it took me 30-45 minutes to do one. How am I going to do 100? And how am I going to streamline that production so that every one of them doesn't take me 30 minutes apiece? So for this to be profitable, I've got to be able to do it in about 10 minutes apiece. And how you do that is you have to build a fixture. So I'm going to walk you through exactly how I build one of these from start to finish, and how I fixture that up and then paint and get it ready to ship. Okay, so the first thing is what do I start with? What kind of raw material, raw metal did I use? And this is actually what I started with. So this doesn't look like brand new material, and that's because it's not. It's actually scrap material. So when they asked me to build a mock one up, typically if you're gonna buy round stock, you have to buy them in 20-foot sticks. And I knew that I didn't need 20 feet of it, and I didn't want to build one and then show it to them and then have some leftover metal that I didn't need. I could probably have used it somewhere else, but it's just another expense for a job that you might not get. So typically what I do is I go to the scrap yard first to see if they have anything that I could use. And sure enough, after doing some digging around, I found this round stock here, but it had some issues with it. First, it had this thing welded onto the end, and I already cut it off. But this thing was welded onto the end of it here. And then it had this bolted to this threaded end right here. Now, I don't have any clue what this was used for, but I figured it would work for what I needed it. The great thing about it though is I pulled this out of a pile of about 200. So I knew that if I did mock this one up and they liked it, that I had a nice little stash I could go back to, and it just so happened that it fit the application that I needed. After I built the first one, they said they wanted an additional 100 of them. I went back and I picked up a little over 100 of these things, Just in case I found some that were just bent and unusable or anything like that, I would have a couple extra. As you've seen the footrest on this thing, I figured, why let this piece of metal go to waste, and how could I use it? So out of the deal, I get tons of these 1/2-inch nuts that are now in my toolbox. So I won't throw those away, I'll keep those. You never know when you might need these. Also, I had to make the decision of what to do with this threaded piece. Should I cut it off and be consistent with the round stock? But I was limited in the material. They had just enough material in length for what I needed for each one. And so I didn't want to waste the material and cut it off. So what I decided to do was actually use the threaded end that would go into the ground, and it would actually grab into the ground a little bit better than the round stock would. So I decided to go ahead and make use of this bottom end here, not waste the material. Then you have this thing here. Now I could have just thrown this away, but I noticed that the hole is a 1/2-inch hole and it fits over this on both ends. So what I decided to do was weld that right in place and use this as a footrest so that you can push this into the ground. Along with that, you have a hole here where if you needed to, you can grab, and it would help you pull the post out of the ground. Or you could grab it like this and it would help you to wiggle the post out of the ground versus just pulling it at the top where it's weaker. You could risk bending the material. So I've got 100 of these things, and I had to unbolt all of them, and they all didn't come out very easy, but I got it done, so that's a little bit of work out of the way. I got all these cut off, and I did that on my bandsaw. The next step is I have to make all of the rods the exact same length, and I'm going to do that on the bandsaw as well. So I'll show you how I fixtured that so that I could get all these the same length. So here is my bandsaw and my tables here that I built. They really came in handy today so that I could fixture the back end of this rod. So there is a way that you can fixture the front end, and that's using this right here. And this is what I use to cut the portion that's going to hold the flag in place. So you run that through. You got to stop right here. The reason why I can't use that for the longer end of the round stock is because the piece that I would need to cut off is typically 3 to 4 inches long. And the length of the rod that I need left is 39 inches. So this stop does not have enough length to give me 39 inches. So that's one reason. The other reason is this end does not hold the material. Once this gets cut off, this is free to roll around. And to hold the material properly, I need the long end to be in the vise and the 3 to 4 inches sticking out on this end right here. Because of that reason, I have to fixture it from the other end. The issue is that the other end does not have a automatic stop so that I can fixture the same length every time. So what I did was I built this little L bracket here out of some 1/2-inch by 2 flat bar. I built a little L bracket. I welded it on this corner, and I'm going to hold it to this back wall using a pair of vice grips. So you can see here, this will actually stop the back of the rod, and from here to the blade is exactly 39 inches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the rods in here and then back them up until they stop. Then I can clamp it in, lock it in place, and I know when I make that cut, every one of them will be 39 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and start cutting. Okay, now that I have all my pieces cut, the next step is to take a straight rod and make a hooked rod. And so how do I do this consistently 100 times? So what I've done is I've mocked up a rod here that's got the right angle that I need. It's actually a 45-degree angle, but it's the right angle. And I've welded it to this square stock here. And what I'm going to do with this is use it as a gauge to bend all the rods at the same angle. So you can see here that these rods match pretty closely. So now what I have to do is grab my torch, I'll heat it about the 2-inch mark, and then bend it to match. That's all there is to it. Now I gotta do it 100 times. All right, I got my whole setup here. I got my pile of rods pre-cut. I've got one set right here, and I've got my fixture ready to go on my table. So my fixture is nothing special. It's just some 1-inch angle iron here, and I got this little square box going on. I've got a piece out here that's welded, and then this piece on the bottom welded in place. So it doesn't look like much, but it gets the job done. And after I'm done, I can remove those tacks, grind it flush, and I got my welding table back. So that's the great thing about having a welding table is you can beat it up, you can fixture it, and then always put it back together. So the last piece of the puzzle is my box of horseshoes. So no more grinding and cleaning and picking all the crud out of them. I just went with brand new horseshoes and get them by the box. It's a sweet deal. Get it by the box is the only way to go. If you're in a pinch and you want to use some original horseshoes, then go for it. But when you're doing a production job, you don't want to mess with all that. So brand new horseshoes ready to go. So I'll grab one, put it on the table, it's ready to go, and I'll start laying this out and getting it welded. One down, 99 to go. Okay, now that I've got my fixture set up, I've got my process down, I've got all my material cut, ready to go, I'm gonna time myself and I'm gonna see how much better I am than that 30 minutes before. Now granted, this is just the fabricating of the stand itself. That doesn't include the time it took to cut the material and the time it's gonna take to paint the material, but just the building of it, if I had to go back and guess, I would say that just that at least took about a good 15 to 20 minutes of my time to properly lay this out, get it straight with the right angle, and get it welded up. That took at least 15 to 20 minutes. So I'm gonna see if I can't beat that time with my setup here today. So I've got my stopwatch ready to go. I'm gonna lay that right here. Got everything ready, got my welder set up, and we'll start. All right, done. So it looks like we came in at 2 minutes, 16 seconds. So that's not too bad. That's not too bad from 15 to 20 minutes. Drop that down to 2 minutes, 16 seconds per piece. And that's how you do production work. Now, the thing about this is I can set it right back in the fixture and it'll go right back in place. So I'll let you take a look of how it is fixtured up. Every one of them will be exactly the same. And if I put it back in the fixture, it goes right back in place. All right, I'll hang this one up, and this one's ready for paint. Here is the painting rack that I built. I built this specifically for this job, but I've really been needing one for a long time. I knew there was just no getting around this job without having one. This rack holds exactly 50 of these stands, so I'll have to run 2 batches, but that's not too bad. I built it pretty tall. This is much taller than what I could reach. This is about 7.5 feet tall, but I built it that way for hanging large items, and the next thing I need to do is build hooks that will hang off of the top rail here, and that hook will come down, and then it will actually put things at a good painting height for me. The other thing that I want to do is I have this platform on the bottom so that I could lay things that you can't really hang. I could lay them on this platform, but it's very low to the ground, so this would primarily be used for things that are big, that I need the space for. But what I want to come back and do is about halfway, I want to build some type of a shelf right here so that I could lay things on this shelf, and it would be a good painting distance, and it would be high enough from the ground that I wouldn't actually paint the concrete every time I had to paint something. So there are some things that you just can't hang and paint very effectively. So that's when this platform would come into place. Right now it's not painted, it's bare metal, but I'm going to get it painted. Then I have to wrap this whole thing up in newspaper material. If you've seen other painting racks, once you've used them a few times, they get so much paint caked on them. They're just very ugly and very difficult to clean off. So I don't want that to happen. I'm going to wrap it in paper, and that way whenever I have a new job or there's too much paint caked on it, I can just rip the paper off and rewrap it, and my stand looks brand new. So I have all these cleaned, wiped down, degreased, ready to go. I'm going to start painting this batch. All right, I got my second batch done, ready to go. Pretty happy with it. I'll have to do some touch-up painting once I get it off the rack here. Just being that close together, there's a few spots that I can't get quite as good. But I'll do a final coat once I get it off the rack here. All right, here's my first batch. I built this skid and drilled 1/2-inch holes all the way through it so I could hold 100 of these and deliver them. And once I get them up on the skid, I'll do my final coat, just like you see here. It holds it really nicely. I'll do my final coat here. I'll turn it around and get the other side. Once that's done, I let it dry. I move it over here to its final spot. So overall, pretty happy with the outcome. And this is how you would do a production job. Make sure that every one of them is exactly the same and you get them done as quickly as possible. All right, I'm gonna finish this up and get this job delivered. Thanks for watching Fabrication Nation. Please click, share, and subscribe. And let me know what you think. Leave your comments.